Hi readers, welcome to Novels with Nat. In today's video, I want to talk about my top favorites from the first quarter of 2025. So far in 2025, I've read 33 books, and I've narrowed this list down to my top 7. I want to go through them in no particular order, so let's get to it. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Measure by Nikki Erlich. This was actually the first book that I read in 2025, and it was an instant 5 stars. The premise of this book is one day everybody wakes up and there's a box outside of your front door, and inside the box is a string. And the string length corresponds to how many years left you have to live. And the book follows multiple POVs of people who are kind of grappling with this information, and should they choose to look in the box, should they not, and does that affect how they live their life knowing how many years that they have left. The book takes this concept and investigates how this situation would affect politics, families, relationships. It's really interesting. It really makes you think, and it makes you wonder, if you were in this situation, what would you do and how would you live differently or the same? This book, I believe, would fall into sort of the category of speculative fiction, which I've been really enjoying lately. So I would highly recommend that you give this one a shot. I also believe that this author has another book coming out later this year. I believe it's called The Poppy Fields. So that one is definitely on my radar. The second book I want to talk about is The One by John Mars. I've read a few John Mars books. This one is definitely my favorite. It's a bit of an older one, but if you haven't read it yet, I would highly recommend it. The general premise of this book is that there's a new scientific advancement where you can take a DNA test and it will match you to your one true love. It's kind of similar to The Measure in the sense that it's this one part about society that's slightly different, and then we investigate a handful of people as they navigate this new reality. So in this book, we're following 5 different POVs. There's a ton of twists along the way. It's a bit of a longer book. I believe it's about 440 pages, but it never feels like it drags. It never feels long. It kept me engaged the entire way through. I would highly recommend it. The third book I want to talk about is Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. This is my first Fredrik Backman book, and it will definitely not be my last. I didn't know what to expect going into this one, but it absolutely blew me away. It was so thought-provoking. The general premise is that there is a failed bank robbery that turns into a hostage situation, and you follow the lives of the people who were in that hostage situation and sort of the struggles and the issues that they have going on in their lives. And the book covers a lot of kind of heavy topics of mental health and loss and grief, yet it's told in almost a humorous way. And I found myself actually laughing out loud throughout this book, which was kind of interesting and not what I expected. But this one is definitely one that I've thought about numerous times since finishing it, and I'm definitely excited to pick up more Fredrik Backman books. I have A Man Called Uwe on my TBR for this month, so I'm super excited to get to that. I watched the Netflix adaptation of this one as well, and it was really good. I did enjoy it. So I would definitely recommend that you try this one. It was outstanding, 5 stars. The fourth book I want to talk about is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, this book is super popular. It's a lot of people's favorites, and for good reason. It was definitely a book outside of my comfort zone. It's not something that I would typically pick up or gravitate towards, but since everyone was talking so highly of it, I decided to give it a shot, and I'm so glad that I did. In this book, we're following a Hollywood star named Evelyn Hugo, who is now older, and she's decided that she wants to tell her story. So she starts working with a reporter and starts going through the events of her life. And in this book, we get to hear from Evelyn as she's telling her story, but we're also getting newspaper clips from when she was younger and famous, and all of the tabloid coverage that was going on about her. It's just so captivating. The character development is outstanding, and even though all of the characters in this book are highly flawed, you really root for them and you want them to end up well. I think about Evelyn Hugo all the time, and it's definitely a book that I will remember for a long time. The fifth book I want to talk about is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This book is sci-fi. It was outstanding. I have recently been getting more and more into sci-fi, and this is definitely one of my favorites. I don't want to say much about this book at all, so I'm not going to talk long about it because I think it's best if you go in blind. But the general premise is that we're following an astronaut who wakes up on a spaceship and all of his crewmates are dead. And we're trying to figure out what happened, how did he get there, what's going on. That's all I'm going to say. We meet such endearing characters along the way. If you've read the book, you know who I'm talking about. I would 100% recommend that if you are going to read this book that you use the audiobook as well. It was so immersive. There were sound effects. It made you feel like you were in a movie. It was such a great experience. This book was about 500 pages, I believe, give or take, but it flew by. I think any type of reader would like this. You don't have to necessarily be super into sci-fi. 5 stars. So the last 2 books I have to talk about are both nonfiction and they're both memoirs. So number 6 is The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie. Sherry Frankie is the oldest child from the 8 Passengers family vlogging channel that was at the center of child abuse case, and this is her memoir and her account of everything that happened in her childhood and up into young adulthood with her parents and her family. This book was so well written. I believe there might have been a ghostwriter situation, but I really enjoyed it. That never really bothers me. The writing was amazing. If you enjoyed I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, I would highly recommend this book. They're kind of similar in writing style, and they're both so captivating and interesting, but also devastating and heartbreaking. I would also recommend this one on audio. She does narrate the audiobook, and I always enjoy listening to audiobooks, especially memoirs, when they're in the voice of the person who it's about. So the 7th book I'm going to talk about is Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. This is also a memoir, and it follows a woman who finds out that her mother is dying of cancer, and it touches on so many different themes from grief and loss and family and culture and food, and it's just such an emotional journey, and the writing is also really beautiful, and it was captivating the entire way through. And the book really focuses heavily on how tied food is to our memories and our culture and our relationships with the people that we share food with and who cook for us. Kind of the first line of the book, it really kind of just encapsulates that whole sort of message. And it says, "Ever since my mom died, I cry in H Mart." And then from there, we just kind of follow this woman's story with her mom and the Korean food that brought them together. So if you're looking for a memoir, 100% would recommend this one. So these are my 7 favorite books from the first quarter of 2025. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got some recommendations for books that you might want to pick up the rest of this year. These were all great options. Write in the comments below what are some of your favorites from this year so far. I would love to know. I would love to check out some of your favorites as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.